3, 2, 1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, the road to hell is paved with good intention. I understand where the previous speaker is coming from, but the tension in their case is what I pointed out in my POI. I agree that life outside the university or school is ruthless, but I question the strategy and lens of that educational model to truly prepare them for that. Because the world is not going to adjust to you. If you get bad grades, you probably won't get into a good college. If you have a bad work ethic or you don't perform well in terms of your KPIs or objective metrics in a job, there's a chance you're going to get fired. So, side government has to grapple with that dissonance that happens in the educational system and life outside the university, because if you coddle them or you treat them too special or you shield them to the meritocratic realities of life, you are more likely to set them up for failure. We think the point of an educational institution is to prepare students for whatever they want to do. Getting a higher education, working and being the engineer, doctor, and lawyer of their dreams, and being able to generally fulfill what they want outside the four walls of a classroom. That is to say, there are certain rules or norms that govern and dictate the world we live in planet Earth. Things like supply and demand, things like capitalism, things like the economy, and things like socio-political reality, which, if you examine the common denominator of all of these different things, are that they are meritocratic-based outcomes. As Newton would say, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, or every action has a certain particular consequence, and there are certain opportunity costs or trade-offs in terms of what you do. On average, I posit that yes, there are certain birth lotteries and structural limitations, but generally speaking, good grades and a good work ethic and studying well, it might not be a guarantee to being successful, but I do know that in the counterfactual, not studying, not getting used to the pressure, not getting used to these objective metrics are likely to lead you to a misconstrued understanding of how these things work in society and how these particular things are likely to be. That is to say, it's likely that you're going to be able to not have a chance at getting a good university or getting a good job or even having a good position in society at a point in which you're not used to doing it because it coddles you to the point that you maybe become sheltered and delusional. This debate is about priority, and we think that we are going to prioritize the particular model that actually caters to the economic reality. A couple of things from my speech. Number one, what do we mean about prioritizing the extrinsic motivation? This looks like a couple of things. A, perpetuating a lot of what we already see in status quo, which is a carrot and the stick approach of positive and negative reinforcement. Meaning, if you do well, yay, we're going to award you, have a pizza party, all that good stuff, celebrate you with awards and have good grades. But if you do poorly, we're going to have certain repercussions and punish you as a consequence within the school. Why is that particularly important? Because on both sides, I recognize that they're all going to happen, but we need to be able to understand that the reality of life is that it's very unfair. Meaning, don't get me wrong, I know what side gov might say. They're gonna say, yeah, Joseph, but doing all these great things might even set you up for failure. But the reality is, on average, I'd rather hire someone or work with someone who gets good grades versus the other person. It doesn't mean that that other person is dumber or less because we recognize multiple intelligences, but the reality of how the world works is that it's going to be you adjusting to it and not it adjusting to you. We shatter that very lens of entitlement and those things that happen on their side. Number two, what exactly are the unique harms on the comparative? Meaning, if you prioritize intrinsic motivation. The main harm is that you have a misconstrued understanding of how the world works because you become so preconditioned in your frontal cortex of how your teachers are going to treat you. Meaning, if you lag behind, oh, they're going to be able to adjust the score for you. Oh no, I fell below the average of 70. They're going to have to be able to have a special class or adapt to me. And ultimately, that just wrecks your capacity to truly understand and harms your capacity in the real world to be able to go. But before that, CG, go for it.
Do you think in the real world you need to understand math and engineering, or is it something else that you need to understand to live in the real world?
100%. We need to understand these things. In fact, we need to understand them well because they cut across all parts of society. Things like financial budgeting, things like being able to know if I apply for a loan or not, things like being able to pay off a credit card. I know it's so easy to like run the debate thing and say, yeah, these don't matter. You know, we care about like first world problems or I don't know, all sorts of things. But supply and demand, which dictate planet Earth, are primarily contingent on basic economics, math, science, all of that, which you have to grapple with. Meaning, you don't have to be a PhD expert, but you need to know how it works. What are some responses I have to the previous speaker? He talked about how different students are motivated by different things. That's exactly the harm of subjectivity. You wreck the academic institution wherein you try to cater to everyone that you end up having no standard to be able to enforce, and as a consequence, it's hard to truly track progress. We think there are certain things in status quo, absent this model skewing, that actually help people deal with burnout and anxiety, because on both sides they're going to happen. You have things like A, guidance counselors and state mandated or educational mandated psychometricians to be able to understand and help them. B, remedial classes to help those who are falling short. C, tutors and mentors to help them from the faculty. D, like remedial programs to help those behind. And E, like class-based systems, meaning sometimes you have an IB, International Baccalaureate, honors class, etc. On both sides, it's going to be hard, but we think we rather be able to help these particular people, primarily because we don't want them to have a misconstrued understanding of how the world works. Because the biggest harm on their side is that these people aren't used to failure. And like the irony of like not being used to failure is that dodging failure your entire life becomes the biggest failure of all. I'm an honor student. I'm sure a lot of us are very talented. We're debaters, we're smart, we're great. But the truth is that if you want to be good at something, you have to like build it like a muscle, flex it, and truly understand that it's not always a pleasurable process if you want to be able to be good at anything, if you want to truly learn or understand. And with that, we are very proud to stand and open this for side opposition.